Good evening, everyone. Namaste. This is Uday Vakawala, CEO, Atal Incubation Center, Rambhau, Mhalgi, Prabodhini, which is supported by Atal Innovation Mission, NITI Aayog. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Baat Cheet. This is episode number 9. In last episode, we had R. Ramanan, former mission director, Atal Innovation Mission, joining us for a conversation on future industries and disruptive marketing. Now, today we are discussing a pertinent topic, startup failures and successes. I believe this is an interesting phenomena in a way that most of the times, whenever you say failure, I mean, that's one of the things in our education system as well, that when you fail, then people will raise their eyebrows, will ask you those particular questions. But in entrepreneurship journey, I think failure is a part and parcel of your journey. Very important. I think failure teaches you quite a few things. And an entrepreneur should always be ready about listening to no's and those failures and evolve. I think that's what the whole idea is. And that's where we are going to talk about that. Also failure as well as successes through a panel discussion format. Every time we have been having more of a conversational format with two speakers. This time it's going to be a panel discussion. So the panel would talk about how it is important to follow processes for startup success and also start, fail, restart. So again, I mean, failure is not an end. Failure is rather maybe your next step that you can restart, and that is what, as an evolution as a startup founder and in your venture journey, you would realize. Let me welcome the moderators first, as well as our knowledge partner for this session. That's Sam and Andy, Samir Joshi and Anindya. To initiate Baat Cheet with our esteemed panelists and our panel members. It's an interesting set of panel members, very esteemed panel members that we have. AIC RMP mentors and our first cohort incubatee. So we have again, I mean, out here, let me say that the kind of panel that we have, they work maybe in a similar sector, addressing specific issues around education. They have been entrepreneurs, angel investors. Their role has been sort of pretty diverse, and that's where we really wanted this panel to bring in different perspective. So we have Sushil Mungekar.
Namaste, Udayji.
Namaste, who represents Empower, Enlearning rather. And I've been a part of, I've been a witness of Empower journey as well throughout. And let me tell you, it's very exciting space that they are in. So, I mean, we'll know more about it in due course of time. We have Bhushan Gajaria, AIC RMP mentor, who's been associated with us for more than 2 years now. Namaste, Bhushan ji.
Namaste, Namaste, Udayji.
He presents Beehive Capital Advisory, angel investor, mentor, and a great support to the AIM fraternity as such. And we have Chirag Bhandari, who's our first cohort incubatee. That's Ennoble Social Innovations, and he's also doing an amazing work, an ex-banker, and then moved on to take up entrepreneurship, the tough journey. And this is what our panel represents. So I would request our moderator, Samir ji and Anindya, to take the proceedings ahead. Over to both of you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Udayji. It's a great pleasure to moderate this session with so diverse kind of people, from other side of the fence, who are investors also, who themselves are founders, CEOs of the company, and also I always call Chirag the Arjun, who is fighting the battle out there. Yeah. The mentors might be the Krishna or the Dronacharya, but Arjun is actually facing the wrath of the war. So I think the topic is extremely relevant in today's time, because it's so, I think, not just to say in the Eastern context, but also in the Western context, success is so much celebrated and failure is so much dished down. But failure teaches you to succeed further, right? Even SpaceX fails, and then the next SpaceX goes with the civilians, right? If that can fail, anything can fail, right? So the first question, I will ask the first question, because we'll keep this session very tight. This panel discussion will add more value than we are discussing ourselves. The first question to Bhushan ji and Sushil ji is that in today's context, where in the past 1.5 years, we have seen so many changes, both behavioral changes, which can be long-term and symptomatic. Okay, we have changes, behavioral changes that have happened for long-term, and some changes of behavior that are symptomatic. For example, the COVID will go. We will stop washing your hand. We will stop using the sanitizer and everything. But this COVID in the past 1.5 years has got so many changes in the context of personal and professional life. With so many changes in life and with so many pivots going wrong in businesses. So what per you, because you are a founder, you are CEO of a company and also you are mentors, what per you is the definition of success and failure for businesses or for startups? So how you define success, how you define failure for a startup? Question number one. And the sub question is that how do you define this failure in today's context? Over to you, Bhushan ji and Sushil ji. Anyone can start.
Sure. Thanks, Anindya. So clearly, it's a very interesting point. How do you define a success and a failure? When I look myself as an entrepreneur, I always define success and a failure. Success is something, businesses are something which are scalable and which are sustainable. Okay. If you are able to sustain cycles, if you are able to sustain such kind of scenarios, then something that you have created is a successful business. The second is your ability to understand the change in trends. Okay. As a promoter, if you are able to understand what is the change in the behavior, and according to that, if you are able to pivot your models. Okay. Now, when we talk about pivoting the model, a lot of people do a mistake of changing the business model completely. What is pivoting? Pivoting is that the core is very, very clear and you are just trying to move the path. So we say that the destination is very clear. What you are making changes in the path to that particular destination.
Sorry, Bhushan ji. Can you extend this point? Because I think it's an extremely important point of the definition of pivot that you're talking about. Because there is so many notion of pivot in today's world.
Correct. So see, what happens is that what is pivoting? Pivoting says that there is a core center of your idea, the center of your identity. Okay. How are you moving around that? Okay. So at times I may change the way I am monetizing my business model. I can change the way I am, approaching my customer. I may change the way I am actually, what is my core proposition? My problem statement doesn't change. The problem that I'm solving doesn't change, but how I am addressing that problem, that may change. So we always say pivoting is something where you say that end destination, I am not changing it. It is just that instead of taking a path A, and it's always about an adventure trip. And when you are in an adventure trip, you will have multiple routes and you are always in the exploration mode. So you may have to change your track. That's okay. That's pivoting. Okay. But tomorrow, if you say that you are changing your destination itself, then that's not a pivoting. That is completely changing your business. So that's how we look at it. And ability to pivot, ability to understand this trend changes is something what we say is the core to your success. And second is that whether and failure, the way I define failure is that the failure is the time when the promoter gives up. The only time you call it a failure is when the promoter says that, okay, I can't do it anymore and I'm closing the door. Because if you look at failure from others' perspective, then last 15 years, Flipkart has been written off in the past, Zomato has been written off in the past, Urban Company has been written off in the past. Okay. Now today, whether you're calling it a success or a failure, so I think so the day when the promoter gives up is the day when there is a failure.
Sushil ji, over to you, because Bhushan ji has given a very razor sharp or scalpel kind of definition. What is your definition? Because you handle kids, the kind of people who are like soft like clay. What is your definition of success and failure? Because this is a very scalpel, and I love this definition.
So I'm glad that Bhushan ji has brought this topic. I'm going to approach the same probably conclusions through a different perspective. Unfortunately, in India, and predominantly, actually, as you rightly said, it starts from the schooling age. We give too much of importance to success and failure. The definition of success and definition of failure is so very important. And if I segregate that between individuals and the society, we always start in evaluating these in some kind of a broad yardsticks that we have given. I think Bhushan has spoken about some yardsticks. To my mind, when we are looking at startups and particularly ideas which are coming from entrepreneurs and especially first generation entrepreneurs, I think the success is unfortunately forced on them, or the definition of the success is forced on them, where they do not have choice. For example, if you look at today the way entire startups are getting evolved, it's basically how do you build a proof of concept, how do you define your unit economics, and how rapidly you can scale. And especially if you move into VC circles, you see that a discussion around hockey stick, that how fast you can reach the scale that which I've been talking about, and the market is rewarding, the VCs are rewarding towards that. Whether an entrepreneur likes it or not, they get sucked into this entire what I call is a competition. And in this entire process, building an economic value for the end user actually takes the backseat. And so for example, the biggest funder for your business is not the VC. The biggest funder for your business is the customer. If customer funds, then the VCs will fund, and everybody will actually start chasing rather than you chasing them. But unfortunately, what is happening, if you see around, and some of the examples Bhushan also took, that where you make losses or big losses and all, it doesn't matter as long as you actually rapidly scale it and bring it to a level of what valuation that you are doing, because ultimately VCs are also looking at 5-year horizon, 7-year horizon. So as long as the growth is done, they can have exits, and that's how it is defined. When creation of economic value takes a backseat, that is where if you cannot sustain on this path of raising money, and at some point of time you hit a roadblock where you can't raise money, and that's why you have to stop the business, and that is where startups are getting choked. So this is my first observation which I've seen over the years, that people who do not define their purposes properly, and I think Bhushan also made a very valid point, that the problem statement doesn't change. If you are married to that problem statement, if you understand what you're doing, why you're doing, and then you don't get married to that idea, you start pivoting that idea from A to B to C, as long as you are ultimately addressing that problem, then startups are not perpetual failures. I mean, then there's an opportunity for people to pivot that, convert the failure into a success at some point of time, and then get back into the market. So rather than straight jacketing startups into success and failure, I think we should look at their ability to define a purpose, how fast they can define the purpose, how fast they can align to the purpose, and basis that purpose, how they readjust their ideas of solving the problem. I mean, you took example of COVID. I'll just take another 20 seconds in terms of addressing. You took example of COVID. A lot of businesses have got disruptive. Whatever was working has just stopped working. And on this 18 months, 24 months period, those people who are married to the idea have got completely busted because they don't know how to go about. But those who are strong with their purpose, that this is what I want to ultimately achieve and this is what I'm here to solve, they are the people who are able to repivot, get into other ideas, and then still become relevant in the market space.
So great start, I think, Bhushanji and Sushilji. So I will also ask, before we move to the next question by Sam, I will also ask that the panel is okay. We will maintain a decorum, but whenever somebody feels that is a very strong point to make, please join in, because it's a kind of panel discussion where we have the flavor of different point of view. And Sushilji, your point of interesting point of purpose and everything we will address that. So I will give you a nice example. Yeah, over to you, Sam.
Yeah, I think Sushil and Bhushan, you both at a broader level, you both have justified or answered the question. And Bhushan ji has nicely mentioned about failure happens when promoter himself understands and thinks that I've failed. A question to both, more to Chirag and Bhushan ji, because Chirag himself is a startup founder. As per recent May 2021 IBM study, they are saying that Indian startups fail in the first 5 years of inception. In Indian context, we usually say that, that 1,000 days if you have survived in the business, you go along and you are already established yourself. Because in 3 years, you have seen everything and you have done everything. So what is the context in this sense? My question is, what do you mean by this? When people are saying that, that we are, the startups are failing in first 5 years. So what are the causes of failure? So we said that, that mindset is there, whether it's a mindset, whether different another pointers, which is making startups fail. What are the causes? Because Bhushanji, you said that when startup owner or a startup founder thinks that I want to stop and I failed, then he's failed. But what are the deeper impact? What are the causes of failure? Can you please throw some light? Even Chirag, you can come up with your point of view on this because you yourself is a startup.
Sure, Sam. So, so to just give perspective to this figure that 90% startups are failing, and I personally feel that we need to also look at another number as to how many additional startups are starting every year. And I think we need to see that there is an exponential growth happening wherein more and more startups are happening. And when there'll be new people starting up, you will see that the rate of failure will go up also. So I don't think we should be too scared about the number of startup failing across the globe. The number stands at around 85%. So I don't think, and I think overall the ecosystem will evolve with more support system coming in, with more incubators coming in, and with government chipping in more support. So I think this is a good sign that more startups are happening and more startups are failing. Obviously, we would want them to succeed. In terms of failure, I think the most critical reason, as has been already identified, it's the burnout. I think once the entrepreneur is burnt out, there is lack of passion, or they're not married to the purpose, like Sushil identified. I think that is where the startup loses momentum. That's where most startups get burnt out. And then the other issues, like the product is not good enough, or the market gap has not been identified, or the cash supply is not good, or they've not been able to assemble the right team. But I think passion is the central theme, because if you have that, you can actually find solutions to the other challenges. And in terms of overall looking at failure, I personally feel that there are thousands of ways in which an enterprise can fail, and only a few ways in which it can succeed. And it's obviously very painful and difficult to fail. It's not easy. And we are all afraid of failure. So it's important that we do not stop trying, because fear is finite and hope is infinite, as they say. So when we start up with this hope that we'll be able to succeed, and then we hold on to that hope till we succeed. And if we've given it our best, and if we fail for some reason, it's okay. It's okay to fail. You can start up again, and then you can create another enterprise. So I think we need to also look at building this culture of encouraging failure, inside organizations also, so that we are more innovative. And as in the startup ecosystem also, if you've given it your best shot, it's okay to fail. Yeah.
Bhushan, you want to say your pointers on this, the causes?
Yeah. So when we say 90% of the startups fail, okay, and having interacted with so many startups across different incubation centers as also companies, what I realize is the starting point is also an issue. If you talk to a lot of kids today, a lot of promoters, the starting point is not the identification of problem. So if you look at the characteristics of the failures, the characteristics of failure is the startups who have failed. The starting point is not actually defining the right problem statement. The starting point is saying that this is the area where VCs are investing. These are the kind of models that VCs are investing. And today, there is no one doing this, and I am doing it a bit different here. In this space, let me do something, so I will have a VC chasing me. I think somewhere, people are so obsessed with VC money, okay, getting funded and all those things. So I think the starting point, if a promoter is not having the starting point as a problem statement and his passion towards that problem statement, trust me, he will fail sooner than later. So that is one which I always call the starting point, why you got into the business. The second is the yardstick that a lot of the promoters keep. Understand that businesses, as Sushilji rightly said, that unit economics, it's very, very critical. See, external capital is something which should be looked at from a growth perspective. Okay, your own business economics should take you to that sustainability. Okay, at least you should be sustainable, you should be justifiable. So tomorrow, if VCs or any of your investors don't put money into your business, still you will survive and you will grow. And when you go for a growth capital, it's always available. Okay. So second, don't try to don't please look at the any point of time you look at the unit economics of your business. That's the second point which I always say. Third is the team, and when we say team, we always give this example that startup is an adventure trip, and you never do an adventure trip alone. You always have to have a co-traveler, and the co-traveler is someone who shares that passion of that destination. He should share that passion of that adventure. Only then you can, and that's very, very critical, and that's one of the big reasons why a lot of promoters burn out. Okay, because when they are doing alone, and there will be challenges, there will be uncertainty. Okay, those things will come. If you have a co-founder, trust me, it helps a lot. And we have seen the success ratio in companies which have got two promoters, two founders, has been much better than some startups which have been started alone. So yeah, these are the three main things that we have seen in terms of the failures early stage.
Okay, great. So you mean to say, so yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. No, so you mean to say, so yeah, so we relate to that because many today's generation, they feel, and today's startups, when they come, they look at the sector and the category that, okay, isme itna sara investment aa raha hai, let me also try my hands in that. I think that's the biggest cause of the failure. And once they fail, because they have not studied, they have not even tested their idea. Then one can start blaming other things, that why I didn't get started. But I think it's a beautiful point, Bhushan, that we are starting not what I want to do or what is a need in the market, but where investors are funding. That's a beautiful point, I think. Yeah, Andy, please carry on.
Yeah, I think for me the important point here is that the failure is you're creating the own failure, because if you see, if your starting point is somebody else's reference point, that is a very wrong thing to do in life. Okay, you're benchmarking something in life, and we have seen in presentation, in VC presentation, me and Sam being part of many VC presentations from the startup angle, we have seen there are references of case studies that this has done very well, and that is how my business model is going to succeed. Referencing, it doesn't work, right? Referencing works to make quantum of solace, but I don't think we will give you a future. The third question is very important question, and this question, the basis of this question is a research report by this company called CV Insight. CV Insight is a global research company, and they have, from 2018 onwards, they have done a postmortem of 118 plus startups that have failed globally, and they have come across these 12 reasons. In the chat box, I'm sharing the 12 reasons, but I'm also spelling out the 12 reasons. The question here is to Sushil ji, Bhushan ji, and Chirag. Okay, out of these 12 reasons, what are the top 3 reasons you find are the most potent reason for failure, and why? The first reason is ran out of cash or failed to raise new capital. That is number 1 reason. The number 2 reason is no market need. Number 3 reason is got out competed. Fourth one is flawed business model. Fifth, regulatory or legal challenges. Sixth, pricing, cost issues. Seventh, not the right team. Eighth and ninth is very similar. Product mistime, poor product, 9th point is 10, which is very similar to your 7th, disharmony among the team investor. 11, pivot gone bad. 12, lacked passion or burnt out. The founders being burnt out. So I'm pasting the 12 reasons. You can check it out and select your top 3 reasons with answering the why. Why you think this is the top 3 reasons? Over to you, Sushil ji, Bhushan ji, Chirag.
If I have to attempt this, I think, and I know the report that you are referring to, and I think it talks about the primary reason. It's spoken about running out of cash. If you see, some of these reasons are interlinked to each other. If there is a product mismatch, then you won't be able to raise money. If you don't raise money, then ultimately you will get choked and then you'll burn out. So these are, and there can be disharmony in the team because, in the team, there's a possibility that A is saying, okay, let's do this, B is saying something. let's do that, and ultimately it gets into. So somehow there is an interrelation between the two. I think if you just pick up a couple of things, important things that, running out of cash, or we are not able to raise additional capital to sustain the business. Now, as I was coming back to that same point, that how do you make a business sustainable? Is external funding the only source of making the business sustainable, or can you actually make a cash-rich businesses? That's something which is extremely important from a perspective of an entrepreneur, to check out that how am I creating economic value. That's one thing. Second thing, and that relates to the point, is always we all believe, or that has been said, that idea is the starting point of a business. But unfortunately, it's not the idea. It is the empathy which is the starting point. People have to at least identify the problem correctly, and then there can be multiple ideas of solving the problem. When we look at product mismatch, when we look at misfit in the product, that is the idea failure. It's not a failure of a problem. I mean, the need still exists. Probably you have approached to solve that problem in a different way. So as long as you change and you have an ability to pivot that, then that is something which you can still revector and come back to the same thing. So identification of a problem, understanding where it is, and empathizing with the user that this is something which I need to solve. And if I paint my scenario for next 10 years, 15 years, rather than looking at where the VCs are investing and how can make a quick buck, how can actually scale rapidly. If you actually go on that path, then it's a recipe for disaster, because you're dependent on somebody else's ability to give money to you, and then you want to grow business. So therefore, it's a trap that we are actually getting into, and that's why we need to be very cautious. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you should be very cautious.
So, Sushilji, what is your point? I know that is very link, but if you say, okay, I have to choose these three, what will be the risk three?
I think the first one is the not understanding the market need. I think that's more disastrous. If that is not there. The second is user is not liking your product. So you should be really aware about what's happening, and then how do I pivot. So these are two most important risks. The third one would be pivot code getting bad. So if the pivots are getting bad, then you need to really find out, how, the rapid pivoting, and then how do you find out the correct solution that can go in the market. If you can address these three problems, then raising money is a secondary point of view. Then people will chase you in terms of giving money.
Yeah, Bhushan and Chirag.
So when we look at the business, I think so. I always say the team. First thing is the team. Okay, because if the team is right, they will be able to correct the business model also, and they will be able to pivot also. So the first thing we always give importance is the team. Second is I would put business model and the ability to pivot as part of the same thing. Okay. And as I said, that business model is not just about the idea, it is about path of reaching that idea. Okay, it's not the destination. The business model is actually the route. How have you defined it in the right way? That is very, very critical. And whether you're able to pivot. So that's the second point. Both these, and then interlinked is your getting burnt out in terms of the fundraise. Now, as Sushil also rightly said, when we talk about fundraise, don't look at only the external capital. Okay, that is one part. Second, don't look at VC as the only investors. Okay, there are very, very different set of investors who can look at it. When VC looks at any particular idea, they are looking more from a rapid scalability, virality. Not every business can have virality, but that doesn't mean it's not a successful startup. Okay, so now you're looking at a lot of strategic investors also coming in, a lot of industrial investors also, corporates coming in and looking at it from a strategic investment point of view. So you need to look at different investors, and if you are not able to attract any of these investors and getting choked, okay, because you yourself have not defined your economics. So first preference has to be your economics of your business, and then the external capital. But yeah, this is the third reason why normally it fails. These are three top reasons.
Yeah, Bhushan, we will come back to this question of team. This is a very important point, because I have been part of this networking platform, 2-3 networking platform, and have made a lot of these things, and also founders. There is a definition of team. One say, I want to run like a cheetah, but my team members are like a camel. Okay, so I think this it's a mismatch that a lot of people have off-boarded because they are not gelling with the team. Right? And the second is the definition of a team. Team means hum paanch, yeah, people from outside adding value. For example, consultants, experts, marketing consultant, mentors like you can be considered as team. That is an important question. We'll come back later. Over to you, Chirag, on the 3 pointers that you think are the most important pointers.
Yeah, so and I think a lot of ground has been covered by Sushil and Bhushan. So just to add, I feel the number one reason is reason number 12, which is burnt out and lack passion. So I feel that like Sushil correctly identified that it starts with empathy, and there should be a willingness to solve the problem at hand, and there should be infinite passion for you to be, willing to go some distance to solve that problem. And I think if that is in place, then it leads to then the team issue, because the team essentially gets inspired by the passion. So you can actually build the team, you can get the team in place, you can get a lot of other elements in place if this one piece is organized and sorted. So I think number one reason would be that, and the second most critical reason would be, I feel, would be a poor product or lack of market fit. It's more of the same lines, because unless you're willing to create a product which is far superior than your competitors, unless if you're innovating, then obviously it doesn't matter. But if you're creating a product which already exists, it has to be far superior, and your customer should be willing to support your journey as an organization. And then, unless you're able to do that, it would be very difficult for you to succeed. So that is reason number 2. Reason number 3 would be team, and team obviously is a function of your passion, but also you need to actively invest a lot of time. It's like creating your own tribe. You find like those 4 or 5 great people that you would really want to work with, and then you build that exciting culture in the organization, and you get more people who are excited to work with you. So it just creates momentum in the team about the work, and I think it's a very important factor. So 3 things because of which, and unless you have these 3 elements in place, it's difficult for you to succeed.
Anindya, I think I'll just add on this point, and I want to just make a bit of a provocative statement, if I may allow to. I think a lot has been spoken on the panel rightly about the passion, whether the entrepreneur has a passion or not. And I think that's the underline. Without that, if anybody's getting into entrepreneurship just for making money, that doesn't work. But I make a distinction between passion and drive. Passion is your intrinsic motivation towards achieving something, and drive is extrinsic motivation. That how do you scale, or how do you achieve? What are the milestones that you achieve and all. Unfortunately, last almost about I've spent about 17-18 years in the startup ecosystem, and I can make that statement that today, unfortunately, the entire startup ecosystem in India is disproportionately in favor of drive than passion. People do not reward passion. People reward drive. And if that is what is going to happen consistently, how do you make an entrepreneur and tell him, boss, you passion follow kar, but the market is going to reward drive? There has to take a balance. Unless and until all these entrepreneurs who are coming with passion will get choked, or they will actually alter their motives and then get into drive. And in that journey of moving from passion to drive, they are not able to make that transition properly, and that's where they get choked in lack of money and all that. Ultimately, they realize that this market is not for me. So while we talk about entrepreneurs, the ecosystem also has to take corrective action. That if somebody is taking 10 years to build that business and he has that passion, let him get that window to do that. If we are going to be harsh on him and say, boss, tu jo 10 saal mein karna hai, 4 saal mein karke dikha, that's not going to happen.
And Sushil, I fully agree with that. And probably if the passion is not rewarded, then probably we will not have innovators as well.
Absolutely.
I know we have been working with a lot of startups. One of the startups that we have invested in, I can give you an example that it's been 7 years for product development. Okay. And no investors. The promoter on his own has funded the business predominantly, his investment, and but he has been, there's absolute, he's married to particular end goal, and there's a passion. And finally he's come out and he's come out with the product, and today the world is looking at that space after so long. So if passion is not rewarded, then I don't think you will have innovators.
Yeah. So I think beautifully spoken about the reasons for that. But as we know that this report, Bhushan, Sushil ji and Chirag ji, as we know, this report is done and created after studying the hundreds of startups who got failed. And after that, they have reverted with, these are the 12 pointers which they are seeing it as the primary reason for the failure. Just wanted to check with you, people are repeatedly doing this mistake. Startups are repeatedly doing this mistake. They have studied other startups as well. They know how it is functioning, how it is going and all that. They know the reasons of failure also. Why they are repeatedly doing this mistake? Is it a trap? Is it a mindset? What is it? So what's your take on that? I think Bhushan ji, Sushil ji, you can.
That's a very valid question, something very close to my heart. I think to my mind, every startup, irrespective of whether they are just doing the same product itself, still have different challenges. So to my mind, every startup, there is no formula of success in the startup. And therefore, even if you learn 10 different case studies and try to learn from them, I mean, we always say that learn from others, failure all. Ultimately, you have to match your challenges. That's one. Second is there's a distinction between entrepreneurship and entrepreneur mindset. Okay. Nice. Unfortunately, in India, and why I'm talking about, my journey is towards building entrepreneur mindset among children. We do not create that entrepreneur mindset. So what is happening in our entire ecosystem is that one moment the guy gets the student or anybody, the young chap gets an idea, they get married to that idea, and when the idea fails, they do not know how to manage that. They do not have ability to solve problems. They lack in terms of collaboration. They are so married to idea. I have seen many startups, they don't want to share their idea. Somebody will copy my idea and go ahead. So they don't believe in collaboration of entire thing, managing failures, leadership. So these are some of the skills which need to be imbibed among children or college going students, and that's the mindset that needs to be created. If the entire schooling education system is going to create job centricity in our mind, suppose to 10th and 12th exam day, and the end of the day you have to get a job, and then on top of it we have to build a layer of entrepreneurship, that's not going to work. So we need to really create that entrepreneur mindset among people. Let them take those ability. I mean, whether it's their first startup, second startup, and all, let them learn out of it. And if you do that, then the startup failure ratio should actually come down. That's my take.
Before you start on this question of mindset, I think it's a brilliant question by Sam on the mindset trap. I just have one pointer here. Is that as per Mr. Nayanmurthy, the progress is often the difference between the mind and the mindset. Okay. And what Sushil ji very nicely said about the whole collaboration mindset, I think I personally, I will make a provocative statement because already Sushil ji has made it. So let me also add to it. There is a whole alphaness in the mind of a startup founder. Okay, I know it, I can do it, I don't need somebody else's point of view. That is, I think, is a big trap. Okay, not to listen to anybody, not to take anybody's help in solving the problem, because I have the idea, I know it, and I will do it. And I have 16, 17 years of experience, so I have seen that world, so I can do it.
So that is, I mean, to your point, that is where the problem, because in the complete education system, we have nurtured competitiveness so much that I just don't want to collaborate with anyone. I know everything, and if I don't do it, I'm failing. So this is where the problem starts.
So very interesting. My point would be when we are saying that 90% startups fail. Let's look at what is happening is that, as I said earlier, all the startups are keeping VC in their mind. Okay, the investors in their mind. Now, the guys whom they are keeping in mind, they themselves have a hit miss ratio of just 20-25%. So you are trying to create a business model around something that will sell to a VC, and that VC space overall, okay, cumulative itself is having a success ratio of only 20-25%. Then how can you have an overall ecosystem success rate better than that? So that is one big thing, and that has to change. Second is that what for the new age entrepreneur and everything, and when we talk to a lot of people, we are talking, every time we talk about unicorns, we talk about valuation, we talk about all those things. We have never spoken about the grind that they need to go through, okay, to achieve that. And also, the reason for a burnout is that every time, without understanding my own capability, if I keep Mount Everest as my target, then I'll burn out. Every business and every entrepreneur should have a different target. Unicorn is not the only way. There will be businesses who will say, okay, I can be just 25 crore revenue business, but I'll be profitable. And that's also a successful startup. Not every business has to become, 500 crore, 1000 crore. However, when they go out for fundraise or everything, the VC will put that as a yardstick. That can you be 100 crore? How fast can you be 200 crore? How fast can you run? That approach has to change. So somewhere, either the entrepreneurs have to learn that, please don't create business models around it. You need to create your own targets and your own yardstick, and then understand what is the grind that you need to go through. Unicorn is not the ultimate goal.
Correct, Bhushan. So I think this also, we have great pointers on this. Interesting thing, I think Sushil ji and Chirag ji, my next question coming to you, basis on this, because you both have been associated with the social cause and education and all that. Today, interestingly, is the September 25th, which is the Antyodaya Divas. Present government in 2014 came up with this idea of celebrating Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay's birth anniversary as Antyodaya Divas, which means uplifting the weaker section. My question to you, as per you, what will be the context of this Antyodaya for the startup founders? Because you both are into social context, we always want to look at it as how we can lift the weaker section of the society. Whether it's so when we say weaker section of the society, is it physicalness? It's a mindset. What is it? And what is the context to this for the startup founders? How they can look at it? Chirag and Sushil ji, over to you.
So I think it's a very welcome initiative by the government. I think it's the name itself. I mean, taking care of weaker section, and as we understand from a lot of work that we have done, I think it just when we really support weaker, or when we really help outside, it just creates some level of contentment in ourselves. And as a company, as an enterprise, if you're really out there supporting weaker sections, and if this is a part of your purpose, the organization, like the passion that we spoke about, or the purpose that we spoke about, it just gets that much more strengthened. For example, talking about our organization, we are focused on education for rural students, and the fact that we are really wanting them to get the highest level of education, equip them with 21st century skills. I think the fact that we are focused there, it just gives us so much direction, so much focus, so much energy. So I think it just helps an enterprise build that much more momentum to kind of bring about change, and to sustain, and to really deliver on its expectations. So just clubbing the two things together, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Over to you,
Sushil ji.
To my mind, I think first of all, that's a great initiative by the government to celebrate this and build that social cause. I think this entire startup the way we look at it's we actually term it quite in terms of a capitalist economy kind of a thing. Wherever you are able to create maximum shareholder value, you make money, unicorns and stuff like that. I think the drive has to be more towards what is the impact that startup is creating. What is the theory of change that startup has, that from X I'm going to do Y, and this entire thing, while I'm building that business model, how I'm impacting the user and how am I impacting the society as a whole. So whether it is employees or whether it's anybody who's associated with that, if the startup, the founder or that entrepreneur is able to build this kind of an impact of his or her startup, I think that is where they should be able to drive back to society. I mean, there are sustainable development goals of United Nations. So how do we contribute to that? How do we contribute to nations' ultimately well-being and create that economic value? That if I am going to get employees also, that how do I actually create value for those employees in my ecosystem? I'll just give you I've seen Chirag's venture also from very close, and he's doing a fantastic work. I mean, whenever I am into teaching entrepreneurship to school children, I will often ask the question that why are you a profit-making company? You should be a section 10, or you should be a foundation. And I say, what's wrong in making money while teaching entrepreneurship to children? while serving the social cause. So we have very narrow mindset towards it, that either it's a social cause, therefore it should not make money, or this is making money, so it should not have a social cause. I think there has to be a blend in these two, that yes, every startup should have ultimately a social cause at the end.
We
Correct.
come to the, I think it's a very, very powerful discussion, but time is not on our side. So before we conclude, sometimes audience says, यार ये लोग ज़्यादा ही problem के बारे में discuss कर रहे हैं, कुछ solution तो देके जाए, इतना देर से बैठा हो. So before we conclude, my question is, we have identified, for example, the main reasons: product, not good product, not gelling of the team, passion, that is a lack of passion, and fourth point is that pivot going wrong. So if these are the four major points of failure, what will be probable success, probable solutions to it? If for the audience, what if they are facing at the back of the mind, if they are facing the same problem, what can be a probable? Yes, there is no solution black and white, but what can be the probable solution from your end that we can give for these 4 pointers?
So I think the first thing is that you identified the right reason to start your venture. I think once you've identified the right reason, once you're married to the purpose, it just helps because it would just help you go a really long distance. So I think that is the one most critical thing. I think once you have done that, the second most crucial thing is to really work on creating a sensationally awesome product. Like, it has to be far better than the competitor, and to really deliver. As in, the customer should want your product to succeed. It should be that good. And then I think if these two things are in place, it would be simpler for you to put the team in place. And then it is just a matter of identifying the right opportunity and pivoting in the right direction. So I think in this order, we should be planning it.
But Chirag, in the making of a perfect product, sometimes are you missing the customer who's at the center? Sometimes we say, okay, we have for example, I have gold, and there is people standing to buy the gold. Do you need to make a brand out of the gold? So sometimes in the making of a perfect product, we forget the customer, whether the customer is at the center.
Yeah, so it's a very, very, very interesting question, Anindya. So perfect product, different people can perceive it in like 1,000 ways as to what a perfect product is. But to my mind, a perfect product is what a customer says is a perfect product. It's not what you say is a perfect product. So, if it is really fulfilling their needs, their aspirations, and if they say that it really delivers on what it needs to deliver on. So, and you need to be taking those feedbacks on a very, very regular basis and from different directions, not direct, indirect, from your team, outside. I think that is when you can get to that space. And once the product is delivering, that's when you have a game on.
I think I agree with all the points that Chirag has made. I'll just add a couple of more points. I think as an entrepreneur, you should be a purpose propagator. First of all, you should have that purpose, as Chirag said. And then you should go on the rooftop and keep propagating that purpose, that this is I'm trying to do. The second important point is collaborate. How fast you can collaborate, because in given short span of time, if you try and do everything on your own, then you would not be able to achieve what you wanted to achieve in terms of creating that impact. Forget about the monetization and all. And collaboration doesn't stop only in getting a co-founder on board or building a team and all. Get out and look at what other startups are doing. How can I tie up, and how can I actually take their inputs and their add them in terms of achieving my purpose. If you can do that, then you create a nice ecosystem around it where your purpose is getting driven by many folds, and that is the faster way of reaching out to the impact that you want to create.
I'll just add one more point. Most of the points are covered. One more point I will cover is the path to sustainability and profitability. Okay, the unit economics and how you get into a quick profitability is something which you have to be very, very clear if you want to be successful.
Very good.
Right.
I mean, we are in a great juncture. If I ask you to make bullet points to conclude in terms of bullet points, because you are very good in making sharp statements.
Yeah, so I think it was a very insightful discussion. We are running against the time, so we need to conclude that also faster. But I strongly feel, that The topic also was, we say that it's a start, fail, and restart. Okay, so learn from your mistakes. That is important, and we realize that, and people said, and Sushilji nicely said that, that my pivot is not the it's a drive and not the passion, which is a very beautiful point. And that is, I think, that is like you have the dictionary in front of you where you are talking about why people are failing, but still I do the same mistake because maybe I follow the drive and I don't follow the passion. So learn from your mistake, that from your peers and from your co-founders or from your peer startups and all that, and play your game accordingly. I think that is what, and Bhushan has also nicely summed up at the end, that that is unit economy. So that we need to look at. And when in the beginning only, Bhushan also made a beautiful point, which was about the startup and startup things that I have failed. That time he is failing, and it is not about start or fail. It has to be all about the restart. And when I read the word restart, it gives me the beautiful quote from Swami Vivekananda. It's not, the arise, awake, and do not stop till you achieve your goal. So achieve your goal happens after you fail. It's not only about starting, it's not about failing, but it's about the restart. So learning from that, and arise, awake, and do not stop till you achieve your goal. So it's a mindset. It is about for following or pivoting your passion and not the drive. And learn from the mistake fast and run faster. So that's what I can conclude this.
I will add quick 2 points. One point, what Chirag, I love the point what Chirag had said. He said a product is defined as a perfect product if the consumer says it's a perfect product. I think it's a great definition of a perfect product. And the last point is that, Sushil, you have used the word purpose. But in today's terms of purpose, because of the advertising world, purpose has been a very oak word. So they will define a beautiful advertisement by making the women the lead the role, and that is not purpose. I think that is a way of communicating purpose, and we should might not live up to it. Purpose comes from the soul, and we have to believe in the soul. And I mentioned this. There is this restaurant in Coimbatore called the Sri Annapurna restaurant. If you read the case study, it's a true purpose company. They look after their product, they look after their employee, they look after the customer, and the owner says, I am just an employee in the company. My owner is the customer. If you stop buying the idli for me, my business collapses. That is the bigger purpose, I think. Over to you, Udayji. Sorry, we have short by 2-3 minutes.
Oh, I mean, I was just thinking, I think we should go on and on. This is so interesting. I mean, we have already covered very important points. The whole idea of Baat Cheet is to bring in the resources, our mentors, our startups, community together and learn from them. I mean, that's what the whole idea, the collaborative approach, what everyone speaks about. And that's so amazing. So would really like to thank Sushilji, Bhushanji, our AIC RMP mentors, Chirag, our first cohort incubatee, our knowledge partners, Sam and Andy, for making time and then taking out time. And then on a Saturday, I believe we are really talking very serious business out here. That's important. But at the same point of time, we shouldn't forget the fun element of the entrepreneurship. Because at times I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, even if they fail, they have that particular smile on their face because they know that they'll bounce back. And that's what the spirit we are really talking about out here. So that's so amazing. Really appreciate, would like to inform all our viewers that we are recording the session. We would upload this on AIC RMP YouTube channel as well. So if at all, if you have missed out, you can certainly watch it on YouTube. The second very important is the next episode. And what we are going to talk about is United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, wherein we would have couple of startups and an expert coming from that particular domain and sharing insights around UN SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's also very important for the nation and for the entire world. We spoke about passion, we spoke about purpose. I believe that's what AIC RMP believes in. We don't really believe in, quick successes. We believe in processes, and that is where we have most of our, now we are more than 40 plus startups with our 3 cohorts. And if you would see the kind of work each of the startups they are doing, few are at a stage wherein we have informed or rather told them that it's not a 1 year or a 2 year journey with the incubator. It's maybe around 3 or 5 years journey. We are fine with it. we are there to support you, and that's what startups really look out for. So yeah, I really appreciate the overwhelming response, because we have been getting overwhelming response for the Baat Cheet. Few of the properties that we have created. At the end of the day, why are we here is for startups. Why are we here is to empower. And with everyone's blessing, I'm sure we are going in the right direction. So thank you once again. Thanks a lot.